We're going to talk to a man I haven't spoke to in maybe a month or more. It's Paul Lane, the MHA from Mount Pearl South. Hey, Paul, how are you tonight?
I'm great, Daryl, and how are you doing?
Well, we're avoiding the 15 to 25, so I mean, you can't...
That's all good.
That's nothing to sneeze about.
Absolutely, they can have it on the West Coast. They love snow over here, and they can have every bit of it if they like.
I know. I mean, if I had their Marble Mountain, I'd probably be looking for more snow. But that's besides the point.
Absolutely, and I mean, as you said before, when they have winter, they actually have winter. So you can kind of get into, if you're into skiing, if you're into snowshoeing, if you're into snowmobiling, whatever you're into, you can kind of sort of get set up for the season and way to go. But of course, we know here on the East Coast that we could be up to our neck in snow one day, and then 2 days later it's all melted, and then we could be into sleet, and then we could be into rain, we could be into anything. So it's hard to sort of plan a winter season, if you will, on the east coast of the province.
Yeah, I spent two years on the west coast, a year in Pasadena and a year in Corner Brook in my 20s, and I was in the best shape of my life, and I was just amazed at how beautiful winter was, and the fact that for the most time you're shoveling powder as opposed to that monstrosity of the snow, sleet, hail, rain, snow, rain that we have to shovel or push out with a snowblower. Anyway, what's on your mind tonight, Paul? That's enough commiserating about the weather.
There you go. I wanted to just raise an issue that I have raised in the past, and I've raised it in the House of Assembly, but I want to keep this issue going because I think it's a very important issue, and it's certainly an important issue to injured workers in this province. And this relates to the Workers' Compensation Review Division. And just for clarity, for your listeners and for ourselves, because I had a conversation with Jonathan last week, and conversation went a little bit sideways towards the end because I think we might have been possibly confusing the workers' compensation process down at Workers' Comp versus the review division. And of course, we know that there are issues with the workers' compensation system, and we know that there's a lot of people who have to wait an inordinate amount of time to see doctors and see specialists and get proper tests and get the physio they need and all those types of things, and the time it takes to adjudicate claims. And that's an issue for itself in another day, and a big issue. But the issue which occurred, of course, at the Workers' Comp Review Division, and basically what happens there is that once somebody has gone through the workers' compensation system and a decision has been made on a particular claim, and that could be just the initial approval of a claim, or it could be someone who's been approved for a claim but they're looking for additional treatments, or they're looking for modifications to their homes or their vehicles or home care, or could be anything, and at some point in time they get turned down, or a decision is made that either the individual doesn't agree with, or that in some cases the employer doesn't agree with, then we have this sort of outside agency, if you will, which is the Workers' Comp Review Division of independent commissioners who would hear those cases and make a decision. And, of course, the issue that we have at the Workers' Comp Review Division, which sort of came about, I guess it came to light when Minister Manning was appointed, and the 19 cases that she sort of left on the books when she became minister. That's when it kind of came to light. But it wasn't, I can't, this is not about the minister per se. This is about the system, because there's 150 cases down there right now that people are waiting to get heard. And the legislation states that once the case goes to the Workers' Comp Review Division, legislatively that case is supposed to be dealt with within 60 days. And we've got, like I said, a backlog now of 150 cases, and we've had people who have been waiting months. We've had people who have been waiting over a year. And, of course, while they're waiting on this, in some cases, a lot of cases perhaps, they're doing without income, or they're doing without services that are required to try to get better and so on. And to have this wait list is unacceptable. And when I've asked this question in the House of Assembly and so on, all I'm getting basically is, well, we're doing the best we can. But, what I would be calling on government to do is to take some firm action. Like, let's appoint more commissioners. Because at the end of the day, commissioners are not like a person who's on a salary, for example, that we're just paying out this extra money. Like, we pay a commissioner to hear a case. So, if you have a list of 5 commissioners that you could call on, well, maybe the list needs to be 10. so that whenever we need someone, we can get someone who's actually available to hear the cases. And if remuneration is an issue, which I'm hearing may be an issue because they get $750 per case, and there is a lot of work in some of them, some of them not so much, some there are. Well, if the remuneration needs to be looked at for commissioners, well, then that's what needs to be done. But at the end of the day, we cannot have injured workers in this province who are waiting for this, extremely long lengths of time to have their cases dealt with. And in the meantime, they're suffering, and their families are suffering.
It does seem, especially where it is the flat rate $750, it seemed to me when this story first came out that it would seem to be no more expensive to hire more people to look after this and try and get through this backlog. I'm sure there's a pretty extensive training that needs to be going, and I understood Minister Manning's point that it does take a while to get up to speed, but maybe the time might be sooner rather than later to get a few more people in there, get them up to speed, and let's see if we can get through this backlog, because this Nightline, Backtalk, and Open Line are inundated with calls of people who are complaining about the process from stem to stern.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, Daryl, and I want to be clear, like, this is not about, and I'm not coming out saying that necessarily means that every single case that's heard, that, like, you just give everybody everything that you want, that every case go in the favor of whoever's making the complaint. What I'm saying, though, is that people have the right to an appeal in that system. And like I said, in many cases, it's injured workers, probably most cases. Sometimes it's employers. But at the end of the day, regardless who it is, if we have an appeal mechanism in place, then it should be, operating in an efficient manner, the way it's supposed to be handled, so that people can get the decision. Whether they like it or not is another question, I suppose, but at least get an answer, get a fair decision, get that independent appeal so that they can move on with their lives one way or the other. And I don't think that's too much to ask.
It's the limbo process that must be just as frustrating as anything, and it's a portion of a clear my throat. It was also a portion of the project that most Newfoundlanders weren't really aware of as its own the review division itself, and I'm sure they have it. I mean, it's not just a matter of one person reviewing a single document. There must be letters in there and opinions based on occupational therapists, physical therapists, medical doctors, what have you, and so it's a pretty fair, sizable project to undertake for each individual case, but it's definitely something that, for no extra money, really, because it is a flat rate, that something could be done to alleviate the system down there.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. And, some of these cases, in fairness, as you said, Daryl, some of these cases are very complicated. And I know that firsthand, because prior to getting into politics, that's what I did for a living. I was a health and safety practitioner, and I also was a claims manager for a group of companies. And I've actually appeared in these hearings. I've seen some of these files. Some of them, like I said, are extremely large, extremely complicated. Some of them are fairly simple. But, and of course, it's like anything else. You take the hard ones with the easy ones and so on. Some can be dealt with probably a lot simpler and easier than others. And there is a lot of information there. And of course, you need to have a hearing and have an opportunity for the person who's making the appeal, as well as perhaps, the other parties that could be involved, whether it be at the workers' compensation, whether it be a rep of the employer, whatever, to have their say, have the hearing, and then a decision is made by the commissioner. And I'm not suggesting that in any way that this is easy work. Like I said, some of them are pretty straightforward, some of them are pretty complicated.
Scheduling, I'm sure scheduling is the biggest part of all of it.
Then get the people.
Yeah, scheduling is the biggest part of all of it, because to try and get people who have their own busy careers and their own busy lives to meet en masse to discuss one of these cases is probably what makes this the trickiest, tangliest part. So as a opposition member who could very well be in the position of government a year plus down the road, and someone who's worked in the industry, what would you do to workman's comp? What kind of adjustments would you make down there?
Well, the topic we're speaking about now is the Workers' Comp Review Division, so I'll stick with that because Workers' Comp is another huge issue in itself, and I can certainly speak to that on another night. But on this particular issue of the Review Division, I simply think it's a case of government appointing additional commissioners. And like I said, if the issue with the commissioners is that they're not getting paid enough for the work they do, if a review needs to take place to see if it's consistent with other provinces and so on, and that the commissioners are remunerated for their time properly, if that needs to happen, well, then that should happen. We should have more of them. If we need to extend the hours that these cases are being heard, at least just to deal with the backlog. If we need to, utilize additional venues or whatever the case might be, if that's an issue, all these things need to be looked at of how we can get that wait list basically down to zero so we can then start off fresh. And then as we move forward, make sure that we have the appropriate resources in place to deal with these cases in a timely manner.
Yep, Paul, it's a great topic. Glad you called tonight. Appreciate it. Just keep in touch.
Absolutely, Daryl. Always a pleasure. You have a great night.
You too, bud. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.